Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. It's still dark, but sunlight is arriving soon here, February 1st, 2022. We have two American blended whiskeys, one from 1888 and one from 1969. And the recipes almost assuredly have changed over the years. Back in the 1930s, at least, most American blended whiskeys were at the 86 proof level, just like most bourbons. Now they've been dropped to 80 for whatever reason. Here's Kessler, American blended whiskey, distilled somewhere in America, but blended and bottled in Kentucky by Beam Suntory. No website listing. They used to have a website listing, but now it's only an archive thing. If you look up Kessler on Wikipedia, they show an archive. It wasn't much to it to start with, but interesting blend ratio, 72.5% grain spirits and 27.5% straight whiskey, 72.5 to 27.5. The typical ratio is 80-20. So most of these American blended whiskeys will only be 20% straight whiskey, but that one is 27.5% aged 2 years. Only 2-year aged. Could it be Jim Beam bourbon aged only 2 years? It could be. We don't know. On the other hand, it might not be. All right. Bankers, it does have unusual flavor, though, and Jim Beam tends to have an unusual flavor, in my opinion. Bankers Club is a competitor introduced in 1969. 80-20 blend ratio, aged 3 years. So the straight whiskeys in here aged 3 years and bottled in New Jersey by Kasser Laird. Or as it says here, Regent Distillers product. Regent Distillers, another alias name for Laird and Company. Kasser, Bankers Club was started by Kasser Distilling of Philadelphia. But sometime in the mid-1980s, it appears, Kasser sold out to Laird and Company of New Jersey, and they brought all their brands there. But it says American, once again, it says American blended whiskey. It does not say New Jersey blended whiskey. So it could come from anywhere in America. It could be a blend of different grain, spirits, and bourbons from around the United States. The key here is it's bottled in New Jersey. It says bottled. Doesn't even say blended in New Jersey. It says bottled. So could it just be a blend that they bought already prepared and then just bottled in New Jersey? Certainly seems the case. Seems to be the case, but doesn't really matter. It's such a common practice, but it is something to keep in mind. These little particular things do mean something, I guess. So my prediction, I think I'll be able to tell them apart. Bankers Club isn't that great, actually. It's okay. I think it was $13.99 at Total Wine and More, and this was $12.99. Now the price has changed with inflation, but hadn't changed a lot, but it has changed. So well, probably has changed with the inflation rate, whatever that is, which is high. So I've seen Kessler at Dorgnac's. I bought Kessler at Aquista Paces in St. Tammany Parish once. So it's around, but not common. Bankers Club, I've only ever seen it at Total Wine and More, okay? We get some Laird products in this parish here. Perhaps some of their Applejack. I don't really look at Applejack, apple brandy, so it could be on the shelves here. I believe it is. I just haven't looked at them. I know we get the Pennsylvania Dutch every holiday season, starting around October, late October. So we certainly get that, and that's from Laird. Oh, sorry, never mind. Scratch that. That's from Jacquin. Jacquin's in Philadelphia. Yeah, so the Applejack will be about the only one we get, and maybe some of their cordials. Senators Club, Bankers Club. I don't know. There's a Bankers Club straight bourbon also. Total Wine had that. I mean, I didn't buy it. I got too much bourbon right now. But this is the blended, but there is a straight black label. Is there a Kessler straight bourbon? Not to my knowledge. I'm not aware of that. I don't think they ever dealt. I don't think Kessler ever dealt with straight whiskey in the whole history of the company. It was just the man made a lot of money selling blended whiskey out west. Then he started his own brand in 1888. After Prohibition kicked in, he sold to Seagram's. Sometimes I think Prohibition must have been a plot by the major distillers in collaboration with the U.S. government to destroy all the small mom and pop distilleries. Because after Prohibition, only the big guys stayed around, really. But he sold out to Seagram's, and he did remain the brand ambassador. The latest I could find, 1935, at age 80. He was still the head guy over the Kessler division. 1994, Seagram's sold Kessler to the Beam Company, now known as Beam Suntory. Bankers Club, like I said, started by Kasser of Philadelphia in 1969. They make Bankers Club Gin, Bankers Club Vodka, Bankers Club Rum, Bankers Club Brandy, Bankers Club Blended Whiskey, Straight Bourbon, and so on. Like I told you, I put a link below and it'll show all the different Bankers Club. It's just a line of products, much like Barton from Sazerac. You can get Barton, all of those, tequila, rum, brandy, gin. You can get Mr. Boston, another Sazerac line, Mr. Boston, triple sec, spiced rum, blended whiskey, scotch. It's all just lines, and it's they're all procure, and that's a common thing. All right. First thing we notice is that the Kessler is much darker. Is that because it's a higher percentage of straight whiskey? It's probably that. And they might use a thicker, well, never mind. They're using used barrels, so forget it. Although the straight bourbon in there could be using thicker barrels, you see, thicker charter oak. Because the straight bourbon, or if it's straight corn whiskey, whatever, I don't know. It just depends. It's probably straight bourbon. That's the most common American straight whiskey is bourbon. So common. Corn is common. This is just gold or amber. It's, I guess, gold, I guess. Okay. My money, I'm not really betting. My opinion is that Bankers Club is going to win. But you can get tricked up by these things. Yesterday, I did a taste challenge with beer, Schlitz versus Miller Genuine Draft. I thought, oh, yeah, I'm going to get Schlitz. Can't snap right now. I got a cut on my thumb and it hurts. It's going to be a snap, Schlitz is going to run away with the show. But then when I started, if you watch the video, when I started smelling them, that was the first little halting speech I had in that. I was like, started to hesitate. And if you watch, when I got to the tasting part, it was when you could see I was really starting to worry and think, And my confidence level went to zero because I couldn't really tell them apart, which was shocking in a way. It was shocking in every way, actually. But anyway, that's the way it goes. Blind is different. It's a different ballgame. I watch videos all the time where the people are looking at the beer. Look, this IPA and that IPA, and they're pouring it, and they're looking, and they're pouring and looking, they're tasting it. Bad idea, because there's bias involved, and you may not even be aware of it. It doesn't mean a whole lot when you're looking at it and you say this and that. Why you think the Pepsi challenge was blind? Because they didn't want the people to know which was Coca-Cola, which was Pepsi. And Pepsi won most of the time. Although there was more to that story, because Coca-Cola did a follow-up study and they found out that only the initial tastes, when the people took the initial sips, was Pepsi winning. As they kept drinking it, blind. Then Coke caught up and took over, and Coca-Cola actually won in long-term tasting. But that was pre-abandonment of cane sugar and the introduction of high fructose corn syrup in the mid 1980s. So who knows what it would be today? But back in the pure days of the cane sugar. Okay, a little wood here. I can open my eyes, but I just I don't want to look down. I mean, the shade is different, but if I, it's not going to be that different, but I got to be that careful. Okay, so they both evidence oak. So there's wood in the aroma. That's really the main predominant or preliminary feature in the aroma is the oak. And you get the corn, sweetness, whiskey, candy, corn smell, which is so common for whiskey. Is there anything unusual or strange or outstanding with the two? No. I think I already did that, so I canceled out the 7 chimes. Oh, well, I'm not a metaphysical person, and I'm not a superstitious person. I walk under ladders, like to see black cats cross my path. If I spill sugar, I don't throw it over my shoulder. That's all old pagan rituals from the Dark Ages, or probably really in the ancient world. But they carry on today, like knock on wood, another one of those old carryovers from the ancient world. Yeah. Definitely nut oil. And what did I say? Beer Hounds Beer Reviews. Dang, that Kessler's hanging. It's hanging, but it ain't exactly performing that well. Okay, so I'm getting nut oil. Yeah. But then that could be from Banker's Club also. I didn't think Banker's Club was, Banker's Club is like a stereotypical flavor. So now what I notice over here, you get the nut oil, like nectar from a honeysuckle, wood, a little wood. They both have a wood taste that kind of gets in your teeth and your tongue. But this one has like a grain spirits taste, like unaged corn liquor. You say like moonshine. Well, that's what grain neutral spirits are, or neutral grain spirits. Moonshine. It's corn liquor distilled, unaged, and if you immediately bottle it, it's moonshine. Of course, they bring the proof down. They bring down the proof to 80. But some moonshine you can get, it'll be 190 proof, diesel and Everclear. Deadly products. People, there's a misnomer in the, like kind of in the whiskey snob world where the people like to be stunting. They'll say, oh, that's brown vodka. Canadian whiskey's brown vodka, or American blended whiskey's brown vodka, assuming that grain neutral spirits are a vodka. But that's an incorrect understanding of what they are. Because if you look at the United States Tax and Trade Bureau, grain neutral spirits and vodka are 2 different classes of product. They're similar, but they're not the same. Vodka is a more expensive product. It has to go through some more steps. So they're not going to spend the extra money to make the vodka, to blend it with bourbon, to make blended whiskey, when they can just skip those steps, which means save money, and then take the raw grain spirits and blend it in with the bourbon to make the blended whiskey. They're not going to do that. And in fact, if they did it, it would have to state it on the bottle, 80% vodka, 20% straight whiskey. It has to disclose what's in it. But then what do you notice? They never say that, do they? No, they don't. They always say grain neutral spirits, or neutral grain spirits, however they want to phrase it. It's the same word. So if somebody tells you with the typical, like they do, flip comment, oh, that's brown vodka. Then you can challenge them on it. And it's best to get them on video live. You know, these people, they like to do all this off air and get loud and whatnot, but they don't usually put themselves out where it's a posted, you know what I'm saying? Like a public comment so much, or a video where you could save it, because they don't want to get caught out. You know, they'll say off air, oh, that's brown vodka, blah, blah, you know, and I only drank straight Canadian whiskey and it's rare, but I bought a bottle, it's $180, you know, it's really great, and so on and all of this. Okay. But then if you pin them down and say, well, hold on, Jack, you know, and well, what usually happens if you present those facts to them, they disappear, like they were getting loud on the internet, and you bring these pertinent facts up to them and you get no response, or they disappear, or in some cases they'll block you, you know, that kind of extreme behavior, what is not that uncommon. But if you're going to get into that with somebody, do like I do, say, hey, how about we get on air and do a live hangout, and you could tell me about this Canadian whiskey and brown vodka and all that, you know, and don't tell them that you got these, you know, just say, we'll talk about it. And then you have the facts in your pocket. And when they go off on all of that, then you can say, well, let me show you. And then you got your resources from the Tax and Trade Bureau and all of this. Then there's no way they can weasel out of it, because it's all being recorded. So a lot of times they'll step into it because they're so overconfident and so uneducated about what they're blabbing, you know, spouting off about. But then it's hard to get them to come on camera. You know, a lot of these people is very confident. They're very confident behind a mask or using an alias like Miami 16-7 Goo and all of this. Like, well, I don't even know who you are, you know, talking all of this talk, you know, Joe Biden's. Okay. So we want to clarify what we're dealing with on the products. That's the whole reason I'm saying all of this. Kessler is the Nickelback of blended whiskey. No one wants to admit they like it. Okay, that's probably true. Joe Biden's dentures, I agree. I like Sierra Nevada, and it's a budget craft beer. A Bouget craft beer. Well, I think he meant to say budget. Bouget craft beer. All right, now getting down to this. Not brown vodka. Do I mind if somebody's a whiskey snob? Oh, I certainly don't mind. In fact, I don't even care. But I do mind incorrect information. That bothers me. You know, like somebody's talking about World War II and they're telling me things. Well, you know, I say, hold on a minute. That's not true. That didn't happen. You know, and I you know, I don't care if they disagree. If they agree or disagree about certain aspects of that war or any other war, that's fine. That's perfectly acceptable. But it's presenting incorrect information is where I take issue with it. I'll give you another perfect example. Okay, a lot of nut oil here, I'm telling you, boy. Another perfect example. Over the years, I've had people tell me, well, you know, Budweiser, they changed the recipe. I said, yeah. I said, well, where? And they'll say, oh, yeah, it's a lot different than it used to be. I said, what do you mean used to be? Oh, 20 years ago. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, I started drinking Budweiser in 1996, February 96. And I could be wrong. I'm subject to being wrong like anybody else. I said, but I haven't noticed a bit of difference in all those years, and not one scintilla of difference. Could be that I have bad taste ability and whatnot. And then they'll come back, oh yeah, it's changed. It's definitely changed. I said, well, where is your source material? Like, what can I read the documents that show that it's changed? And then they'll come back with a statement like, well, everybody knows that. I said, no, everybody doesn't know that. It would be like telling me Italy is between Australia and New Zealand. And I say, well, what are you talking about? Well, everybody knows that. Well, people don't know that. Furthermore, it's not even true. All right. Well, so this one has a little more grain spirit, but not in a garish or an unpleasant way. It's just noticeable. And this one has a more nut oil flavor. And likewise, not garish or unpleasant, really, but it's noticeable. Would I recommend either one of these? I mean, yeah, I'd recommend them for $13.99 or less. So for a handle, now we're talking about $13.99 for this huge jug. You know how long this is going to last you? Well, I know some people that do hangouts on my channel wouldn't last them 2 days, but that's a life situation, a sad situation. But for most reasonable people, it would last many, 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 many weeks, if not months. So is there a value perspective here that we have to look at? Yes. Are these a good value? They are a good value for the proper utilization. As a sipping whiskey, they're not a good value. Your counterpoint might be, aha, but they're not meant to be a sipping whiskey. And I would agree with that. They're meant to make inexpensive cocktails for like watching the Super Bowl with your friends, or playing a pool with your friends, or a pool party, or just at home after work. That's all. They're not meant to be, something fancy like Bankers Club. You're not going to go to a club that bankers attend and see this, maybe as a well drink, but they're not going to have it showcased. It's like, oh, the Pickwick Club on St. Charles Avenue tonight. We feature Bankers Club. So if you use enough sense, and I think most viewers can do that, you'll realize it is a good value for the proper utilization, which is inexpensive, cheap, or if you want to say cheap, cocktails at home. For sipping, forget it. But then, once again, they're not designed for that purpose. As you could say that with a lot of products, by the way, some that aren't so cheap. Is Kessler the only one with nut oil note? No, but it's the only one. It's the one so far that has no, I can't even say that. It's one of the ones that have a noticeable nut oil, like walnut oil or pecan oil, because the Kentucky Bow, I think that was introduced in 1950. Kentucky Bow has that from Heaven Hill, but it's a little more unpleasant. Funny thing about Kentucky Bow, they make a straight bourbon, but then there's another bourbon. See, they're weird because they have a straight bourbon, I think a bottle and bond. Then there's Kentucky Bow blended black label and Kentucky Bow blended green label. I have the green label. What's the difference between a black label and a green label? Something's telling me it's more than just a label, and there's something I'm overlooking with those two. Could be the proof. I think the black label might be 86 proof, something like that. Okay, if I'm going to make a whiskey cream liqueur, Beerhound says, I'm having a pizza open itinerary IPA. Never heard of that, but I like good IPAs. Seem like these days most of the IPAs I taste aren't really that good. They're so bland. If I'm going to make a whiskey cream liqueur, it makes no sense to use expensive spirits. I will never taste in it anyway. So Kessler's, exactly. Disaronno, yeah, very popular. Did you notice that nutty oil note before? Yes. Mixer, yeah, a mixer. That's what you call these, a mixer. I don't think bankers are drinking that. I'm pretty sure they aren't. But these fancy, these inexpensive products, they always say Senators Club. Yeah, go to the United States Capitol. Well, just go to the capital of New Jersey in Trenton and see if the senators are drinking a Senators Club, also from Laird's. Something tells me they're not. Boilermakers with Heffa. Philo that tea. Beerhound says, I must be a weirdo because I prefer Kessler over many others for the sipping or shots. You're not a weirdo, it's just a preference. BC's Beer Reviews, OBC's Beer Reviews, regardless of if it's a bottle or a can, it's going to be reviewing the beer, y'all. And good morning to you, BC. He says, good morning, Ron. All right. I really don't have a preference here, okay? When I do these taste challenges, some people get the impression that I'm rooting somebody on, like cheerleading one brand over the other, and I don't do that. I don't care, really. I mean, I care because I want to see who wins, but I don't have a favorite, is what I mean. People keep asking me, who you pulling for in the Super Bowl? I say, well, nobody, just watching it, Oh, but Joe Burrow, he went to LSU and everything. I know that, and I'd be very happy if he wins it. On the other hand, Matt Stafford, with his career and all, and struggling over there in Detroit and everything, I wouldn't mind seeing him win it. Seem like both quality people, so I'm just gonna watch it. And a lot of people tell me I can't watch a game without rooting for somebody. I say, okay, but most of the time I just look at them. I just watch and I say, oh, okay. It might be eccentric, but that's the way I do it. Yeah, I think this is the Kessler. Let's go with this. K. Kessler. Haha. Well, no, it's the Bankers Club. Well, what do you know? Can't say I didn't try, because I'd certainly tried. I'm gonna go back to my old rant point, my ranting point. And the ranting point is, if you think this is easy, try it. See how easy it isn't. And I was watching some video taste challenges where they're like, I have this Hefeweizen going up against this lager, like a German Hefeweizen against a Boston lager from Boston Beer Company. I said, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I watched the challenge, but I said it seemed like a very strange challenge. It's like it's so incompatible. You know, it's like I got this Hyundai Elantra going up against a Mustang GT. The Mustang GT has a much better pickup and acceleration. Well, yes. But it's just some strange taste challenges that people do. Things that, you know, they don't make any sense, like food. Well, you know, I did beets against green beans. Beets are much better than green beans. Well, yeah, well, because you like them more. All right. People should pay attention when they take science class. Kessler just seems so much smoother and tasty to me. Well, in this case, I guess it was because remember over there, I was saying that one seemed a little nut oily, like not quite as good. I thought it was Kessler, but the better one was Kessler. But I mean, better like 10 cents better. You know what I'm saying? But in this case, it was $1 cheaper. So it's slightly better, although I got them confused. No big deal. Do I have a lot of experience with either one of these? Not really. You can see most of the liquid is still there. But honestly, I did buy a 200 milliliter bottle of Kessler, and I did have some experience with that, but it was, you know, limited, very limited years ago. So we just keep going on. Wednesday morning. Well, I'll probably do it today for Wednesday. Wednesday, not a good day, but it's going to be Kessler versus some Sazerac products. Well, you know, 75 South, Grand Legacy. Yeah, Grand Legacy. And whatever other Sazerac products I got around here. I guess it'll be interesting. And then we're going to go against Heaven Hill. Now, I think Kessler's going to beat all those Heaven Hill things. Heaven Hill, man, their blended whiskeys have a weird honeydew melon thing. And some are worse than others, like that Kentucky Gold. Yikes. So I think, don't know, but I think the Heaven Hill products are going to get swashbuckled, trampolined. You know what I'm saying? Jurassic Parked, castigated, kilderated, and so forth, because I just think they're inferior. Right. Thinking and knowing is two different things. Someone said legit 5G phones in the county. Okay, do it again. You weren't focused. I was focused. I just couldn't tell them apart. No, the horror. Your integrity is intact. You're the only reviewer that does live taste test. See, that's important. Live. See, when they're recorded, how do you know they didn't fail 3 times and then they picked the one where they got it right? You know, I doubt they're doing that. Although some of these beer reviewer people, they're strange. You know, like they won't show their subscriber count. To me, that's a real sign of something wrong. It's like, why you don't show that? And then you know why, because it's small and they're worried about it. But it's like it's bringing attention to it. Like if you would just post the count, who cares how small it is? It wouldn't bring people's attention to it. but you're bringing people's attention to it by doing that. And then it makes people think, well, what else are what's this channel about? It's about getting subs, or is it about the product? So it's just a problem for me when I see that. So the shop price worldview wins today yet again. Oh, definitely here in this case. And so Kessler won, and it was $1 cheaper. I mean, didn't win by much. I couldn't tell it apart. Kessler versus Jack Daniels. Oh yeah, sure. That's true. Live reviews are better. They are better. I didn't know you could hide that. Hide what? Oh yeah. But it has to be actively done. What I'm saying is the default setting is to show the sub count. So when you see a YouTube channel that doesn't show the subscriber count, that means they actively went into their settings and they changed it. And that's telling me there's a reason they changed it. And we know the reason. And it always catches my attention. And I think that is very weird. But you can get around that because you can look at their view count. And you say, wow, it'd be incredibly low. But they don't realize they're actually hurting the channel. Like if they would just show it, just show the sub and just forget about it. And then it'll organically grow. But they don't. It's like wearing a toupee. You're just drawing attention to it. Right, exactly. So you're losing hair, but no one ever notices. Like no one cares. You care, but no one else even really notices. But then you put a toupee, and now it's like, now with Drew Brees, everybody's like, give me a break. This is ridiculous. It looks terrible. And so now we know that you're so obsessed with people seeing this. And he was like that when he played football. He would take his helmet off on the sidelines and hurry up and put a cap on. And I said, if he wouldn't do that, no one would ever notice. I mean, you might notice, but you wouldn't care. Like, okay, he's losing his hair. Well, no one cares, But when you're running and putting the cap, it just brings attention. So that's the whole point of that. All right, so Kessler for the win, but with a very qualified situation in my respect. I get no credit for that, but Kessler did win in this case. So thank you, Julius Kessler, for your attention. Is whiskey hard to describe for you more than beer? No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say so. No, it's just, it's different, but it isn't harder to describe. And it's no harder or easier to tell them apart. It's like beer is hard to do and whiskey's hard to do. All right, blind. All right, thanks everybody. Y'all have a good Tuesday now.